Welcome to Real Estate Without Borders. This is a new show that I am doing. Well, I'm not really the one doing it. I think Dave's the one doing it, but I've been honored enough to have been asked to join this show where we're going to talk about real estate investing around the world for people in North America. I'm joined here by the lovely Dave Hutchinson. You might know him from TikTok or Instagram. Dave, how's it going? What's the plan for this thing?
Thanks for the intro, man. I'm the honored one, man. I am with the graphs and charts and
The graphs
facts.
guy,
The
the chart guy.
graphs guy. I think what we're doing here is really cool. I think it's very unique, and I think what we're trying to do is just shed some light on different investment opportunities for people in North America. I think where you and I are going to do really well together here is, it's really not as complex as people think. And I think, we're going to be able to bridge that gap for North Americans to open the door to cross-border investing and hopefully simplify that and just be able to, find and source different deals in different locations and outline the process and be the people that can help you invest outside North America safely, intelligently, and make it a good time.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the primary reasons for doing this is like you and I have been chatting. I mean, we talk all the time, but I've seen so many people in Canada wanting to go and invest in the US. And usually when Canadians want to do something, that's when you shouldn't do it. Like I would say inverse Canada is like the best, like inverse Kramer index, like
Yeah.
whatever Canadians are doing. And like, dude, this is like scientifically proven. Like if you look at mutual fund flows, I mean, I think this would be for anyone, but whatever retail investors are doing, just if you do the opposite, you'll usually be pretty successful. Warren Buffett talks about this all the time, right? You got to when everybody's going one way, you want to be going the other way. So
For sure.
that's what really made me think about, damn, we should be doing something for Americans who want to buy Canadian real estate or Mexican real estate or real estate in Dubai or whatever it is, somewhere around the world, because it feels like the US real estate market is kind of a crowded trade right now, right? Like there's limited opportunity. I don't know if you're feeling the same way.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I should have explained why I'm here. And I've been selling real estate in Toronto for some time, but in the last year I moved to Tulum, Mexico. And since moving to Tulum, Mexico, my database is only Americans. So my avatar, my client base has changed drastically from Canadians to Americans. Obviously, we help both, but I think there's so much opportunity outside of the U.S. for the Americans right now. We want to highlight those places, but yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, the American dollar is doing incredible versus other currencies at the moment, which is obviously a big reason for them to look outside the U.S. for sure. But I have Americans all the time investing in Tulum and all around Mexico, really, and the opportunities here. Like I want to kind of tell you the story we just had, honestly. And this American investor from Nevada bought a villa in Tulum for $400K US. And right now he's earning like 60,000 pesos a month, which maybe let's fact check that here, but I'm pretty sure 60,000 pesos is like 3,000 US pesos to dollars.
Plug that in for me. I just pulled up the chart for USD. I'm gonna interrupt your thought there, because you mentioned the USD is so strong, and like that to me is one of the biggest things that like always shocks me about why does everybody like in Canada want to buy American real estate? It's like the USD's 2024 return is 7.1%. Every other currency on the list that I'm looking at has a negative return. So the British pound is the highest of the negative returns. So it's the best performing of this list. But you've got the pound, the peso is doing great, actually. Chinese yuan, the Indian rupee, South African rand, euro, Swiss franc, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar. The Canadian dollar is down 7.9% relative to the USD. You've got the yen, New Zealand dollar, South Korean won, Russian ruble, and Brazilian real.
What's the US dollar to Canadian today? 69 to 70 cents?
Yeah, it's like around 69. Yeah. It's like back to the COVID lows, right? So what this means is like your relative buying power as an American investor buying in any of the economies that I just listed and many, many more that aren't on this list because they're just not significant enough global players has never been better, like quite literally. So it fascinates me, right? That you've got all of these other people saying, oh, we want to buy US real estate because they see the US economy performing. Whereas the better trade is probably US people taking that US buying power and buying some of these markets that have already corrected. Anyway, so finish your story.
We're only 5 minutes in and we already got a graph up. I love it.
Yeah, well, it would be rude if I didn't have
a keep it consistent. Yeah, I mean, that would be you're the math guy here, but tell me I'm wrong. If you're an American investing in Canada right now, you're walking into what, a 30% discount just because of your dollar, correct?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, it's a relative discount, but yeah, like, you know, if you assume that Canadian dollar can continue to fall, or any currency, it doesn't matter. If you feel that any, you know, peso or the Canadian dollar, and you're going to hear us talk a lot about Canada and Mexico, one, because we both can trade real estate there, so it serves to benefit us a little bit. But two, they're the closest places to the US, so they're the most logical places and the most common places that Americans invest in real estate outside of America.
Yeah.
But so if the Mexican peso or the Canadian dollar falls, let's say another, 10%, and then in, the 5 to 10 year horizon, which is when you're buying real estate, it recovers back to what it was today, then the relative discount that you would buy it at the bottom when it's fallen, you would get that back in a currency exchange as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so it's a lot of the transactions. A lot of the transactions here in Mexico can be done in peso. So it's even more significant for, like, I just showed a client the other day, we're looking at a pre-construction property. When they had made the list, the US dollar was significantly different to peso. I think it was around like 17 or 18, maybe 17 when they did their pricing list. Now it's trading at what? Almost 21 USD to peso. Yeah, 20.27 today. And what's today? January 26th. So the property that I was showing, which I could probably show on the screen eventually at some point, was originally 270 something down to 240 something, so by buying it with your American dollar, buying in the peso, you're looking at just even more discounts in that sense.
Yeah. And I would say, I'm of the opinion that you're probably the buying opportunity is only going to get stronger as both the Canadian and Mexican economies suffer as a result of all of the stuff that Trump is doing right now, right? Like, he's obviously pretty serious about America first and tariffs. And I mean, regardless of your politics, it's pretty clear that that's going to have an impact on both of those economies. Canada, you can already feel it, and you're seeing the Bank of Canada monitoring it closely and suggesting that tariff could give us like a 6% decrease in GDP, which is like, dude, that's like Great Depression level, like GDP decline. Mexico, I would imagine, I don't follow much of their economics, but like, it wouldn't surprise me if they would have a comparable impact. And so, you've got both of those economies probably somewhat recessionary. Mexico probably less, but Canada is definitely recessionary. You've got all of Europe is like full-blown recession, right? You've got China in recession. So there's so many markets around the world that are already dropping their interest rates, in GDP decline. Property values have already come off since the rate hiking cycles started in like 2021, 2022, depending on which global economy you're looking at. Property values have dropped. I mean, China property values have dropped like 60%.
Right.
In Canada, property values have dropped like 18 to 20%. In the US,
what's the Federal Reserve's rates at right now? 7?
Well, so mortgage rates are based on the bond yield, right? So the Fed funds rate has come down, but your mortgage rates are based on your 30-year bond, and the bond market in the US is basically calling the bluff of the Fed that they can't cut or continue to cut. So yeah, your mortgage rate, your 30-year mortgage rate in the US is like high 6s to 7.
Okay.
So relatively, you're buying with way cheaper debt, and basically every other country. Like, what's a mortgage rate in Canada right now? 4%. China, you 4%. Can get like 3. Not that you'd be buying like residential real estate in China, because I think their capital controls don't allow it. But I'm sure we'll interview someone at some point about that. But
that'd be cool.
It would be cool.
That'd be really cool.
Their real estate market is like fascinating to me, man. Like, they just overbuilt like Texas style, just except like to the tune of billions. But yeah, from my perspective, it's, you get values that are cheaper, rates that are cheaper. Whereas in the US, the economy is still strong. Like, there will be a good buying opportunity in US real estate. It's just not right now. And so right now, if you're trying to allocate your capital, where do you want to put it? Well, you're probably going to want to put it in places where you can get good returns.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's like the whole vision of the show. I think that's why we're here, is just to really shed the light on the opportunities out there. We're going to have a bunch of different, people from all around the world to help showcase the locations that we think are great. And not only that, maybe bad, but at least you can learn a little bit about investing globally. And we'll try to do it in the most entertaining way humanly possible. I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of markets that, we can look into and really learn a lot and really provide some serious value. It's cool.
Yeah, 100%. So sorry, you were telling a story and I interrupted you, and then we did sharks and we went all the way around. Tell me this story. So you rich guy from the US bought something pre-con and
wasn't even rich, a very middle class guy.
Yeah.
He ended up buying. So again, I think we're going to talk about Mexico specifically in different episodes, but just a quick story of how far your money can go here in Tulum specifically. Bought 400K USD, earned 60,000 pesos, which is like almost 3,000 US per month. And there's deals like this literally all over Mexico, specifically Tulum. But there's tons and tons of deals, and your American dollar goes so far here.
And what's your costs on that? Like, what would your monthly cost be? So if he was making 36 grand US a year, and he only paid like, so what? Let's say maybe he's paying 10-20% out of that.
Yeah, good question. I think it depends on which route you go. I think a lot of people like the Airbnb buzzword. So Airbnb seems to be like the cool thing to do. However, I honestly believe that long-term rent is the play here because it's seasonal. So we'll use this scenario because he got a long-term tenant, but the carrying costs in Tulum specifically, or this part of Mexico, Quintana Roo, which is a state on the side of like Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, the carrying costs are very cheap. So for a villa, a 4-bedroom villa, you're looking, again, depending on square footage and lot size, I'll say your property taxes annually would be $1,000 a month USD, or sorry, $1,000 a year annually. Okay, property tax super low. Then you have your home insurance. Home insurance here is also extremely low. For the best home insurance you can get for a villa, you're probably looking $800 a year. Your water, depending if you're set up to the actual city lines or not, you're looking about $15 a month max. Wi-Fi.
And like, would you capitalize that into the rents anyway? Like, it would be for long-term rent, it would be plus utilities, so it's whatever you can do.
That's exactly same thing. Yeah, that's the best part for it. That's why I think in Mexico specifically, Tulum and this side of Quintana Roo specifically, long-term rent is the play. You have somebody looking after your house in the off season. You have somebody paying you money in the off season because
tons of like digital nomads going down there. Eh? Like I feel like every day I see somebody else just following Dave Hutch down to Mexico and just living the dream. You're a real influencer, man. People are uprooting their lives to be like Dave and just move to Mexico. Yeah, I know. That's a lot of pressure.
Hope you like tacos.
Yeah.
The tacos are incredible.
But I also like shopping malls and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's the problem here.
So honestly, that's why I like California. We go to California, right? So, yeah, I know you're complaining to me about Mexican Amazon. That's maybe one of the caveats, eh?
Well, we were supposed to film this episode last week, but Amazon Prime is like maximum a week. If you're lucky, you get it in a week, Amazon Prime. And that's Prime. Like I pay for Amazon Mexico Prime.
It's getting bad like that in Canada, though, too, to be fair. Like Prime doesn't really mean anything. It just means free shipping. It doesn't mean it's coming soon. Honestly, it doesn't.
Really?
Sometimes oh, yeah, man. It's like, I mean, now it's like I'd say on average like 3 days.
Oh, come on.
3-4 days. Yeah. It's definitely not next day anymore. They kind of just conveniently slowly removed that from the site and pretended it never happened.
Yeah, no, I can't. Mexico is, I love living here, and there are a ton of digital nomads here for sure. Lots of like crypto people here because you can purchase properties with full crypto. You can purchase property full cash down here. But yeah, the lifestyle is significantly different. My fiance, I got to bring her to like the shopping malls at least once a month, drop her off, let her do her thing for a bit.
Yeah.
She needs to touch clothes and see paved roads and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a definitely slower pace. The nice thing is here, it's in Tulum specifically. Again, it's very like health and wellness. Yeah. I get tons of people that move down here. Actually, I wish. Can you pull up some this for me? Pull this up on the screen. It's really cool. I just showed it. It's ZAMAYA, Zamaya Fitness. Dude, it's bananas.
I got some like some dish
Looks
here.
Like an onion.
There we go. No, yeah. I think I got it on Facebook here. Nope, never mind. This is some Jack.
It's a website. Maybe he is a Jack guy that owns it. ZAMA. Sorry for the Americans. ZA.
Oh, AY. I typed it in wrong. That's all on me. It's a triangle fitness resort.
Yeah. Let's see if you pull it up. I'll tell you if it's right.
Is this like the Altea of Tulum?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to look.
Of course, you found the country club, like the
country.
Whatever you call it, the urban. The place for Dave Hutch. This is
is
like they
where I
build these
belong.
places for you. Like you're the avatar. They never find the actual
No.
guy who's like, because like there's only like 3 of you in the world who's like, you know, like jacked and like super, you know, but this is who they actually build it for. Toronto, there's maybe like 10, right, in like near Altea.
They looked
But
at my
you
Instagram
go there.
profile.
It's like they should actually have like a system like Abercrombie, you know, like where they used to pay the people to like stand. You probably did this. You were one of them, weren't you?
Yeah. I was
so
sad.
You stand out front of the Abercrombie store. They should be paying you to stay at the gym, honestly, to motivate people. You know, it's like Tyson Frost too. Tyson Frost.
Oh
is like,
my God. I couldn't, if I had to, I actually changed gyms to Good Life because I'd go in there. It'd take me 45 minutes to do my first workout because I'd be talking to everybody.
Oh yeah. How'd you get so jacked, man?
The running joke of my life is I think a lot of guys get jacked because they think that girls like it, but it's just so you go to the bar and talk to dudes about how to get bigger biceps.
Yeah. It's just the easiest way to get friends. Honestly, it's a friend attraction strategy. Really.
That's true.
It will always work for me too. I'd be like, I was always, I'm tiny, like I'm short, but I've always been in decent shape, and people do like definitely never had a compliment from a girl about being jacked, but dudes are like,
they don't care.
Anyway,
it's only the gym bros it's funny because I make jokes. You go to the bars and you go to pick up, well, back in the day before obviously, and they'd go to try to talk to girls, but you just get a bunch of dudes asking about your fitness routine at 2 in the morning. It's like, that's the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, this is coming to Tulum. I just saw this place. Okay, like basically it's going to be like a worldwide destination fitness facility. This guy's selling 3-bed. This is the guy I met today. 3-bed, 3-bath villas for $400K. But what he's doing is he's kind of eliminating the issue of slow season. I know we're going to talk about Mexico, a different episode, but this is cool. I just saw this literally today. He's making it like a destination, and because it's a destination, it's going to eliminate a lot of that like off season, slow season type stuff, because he's going to fill this with gym owners, retreats. Like Amazon has already booked a 200-person week with this guy. They're going to have like boxing, Muay Thai, a cold tub, hot tub. It's basically going to be a place where you want to go for a week and just have fitness only. You can make it so you show up. They have meal plans for you. You literally walk out your door and like live and breathe fitness. This is a kind of like clientele that's really attracting.
Yeah, it is that like that. It's kind of like the Costa Rica vibe too, right? It's like that like holistic. I'm going to use some words that are going to offend people, so I'm going to be careful. But like, you know, I don't know what you call that.
Spiritual.
Like people are like, yeah, that's it. I'm like into spirituality and all that stuff
Me too.
But just
I live in Tulum, man.
You know, but it comes with me. I don't need to go somewhere to find it. I figured it out, I guess. It's secret.
You're the unicorn.
Didn't have to pay any money to find the spirit.
It's a plentiful spirit in Tulum, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I'll have to come check it out. I'm going to. We're gonna definitely have to come down and we're gonna go to this place together.
We'll do a podcast inside. It's really cool. Like these things are attracting people from all over the world, you know, and that's, again, I know we're touching on Mexico, different podcast episode, but stuff like this is really amazing for people because you invest not a small amount, but it's $500K, and you know you're looking between 9 and like 15% just on short-term rentals alone, let alone the appreciation value you're going to get. If you look at it on a map of where this is, it's like you can see how much Tulum is expanding, and you put this into an area that's already kind of built up and it's $1 million. And there are $1 million properties in Tulum. There's actually lots of them. I don't know if that's the right investment at this moment, but
yeah, fair. So, okay. So let's go back to your numbers, because I want to get an idea for the returns here. So you got, we had like 36,000 USD, and then I had calculated you're probably about like, you're going to walk away with like 80% of that, right? So you're going to have 20% like, you know, costs. This is before your mortgage payment, although I don't think you guys do mortgages all that well down there, but we'll chat on that.
We're getting into them.
Yeah.
Private lender, so it can be, there's fees. Put it that way.
Okay.
Mortgages. We do have a lender here where the minimum down payment in Mexico specifically that's the lie. Let me take that back. The minimum down payment for Tulum specifically is 30%. But we do have a lender that will cover that 70% for you. The interest rates are like 10%, and there's private lender fees on top.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, and why'd you walk it back to Tulum? Is it because it's a highly localized lender? Like, because I'm curious, because like these are important things, right? Yeah.
So so I'll explain why in Tulum specifically, because even Mexican citizens can't get a conventional mortgage in Tulum specifically, because if you look at the city of Tulum, actually, okay, whatever, let's just dive into it here. Tulum is on top of cenotes. Okay, so if you dig down far enough in Tulum, you hit water, you hit a cenote. Okay, so majority of the city of Tulum as of right now is actually super small. But what happened was development is happening rapidly. There's lots of big developments coming on, and they're building and buying land further and further outside the city center. So because of that, the infrastructure of the city water isn't able to connect to every project out there. So truthfully, a majority of the projects here aren't actually set up to city water. So they're on their own.
So what do? They have like their own water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's actually better because they use most of the developers, if they're a good developer, will have like reverse osmosis. I wouldn't drink it. It's not drinkable water, but it's decent. They have their own.
I don't drink tap water in Canada anyway. Like,
that's what I mean.
It's bottled water, glass.
Same thing.
You know, once you go, like, you know, the people in Tulum, they get it. They're already drinking their water from the mountain out of glass jugs, and you know, they are really to tell you the truth, right? Yeah. Like, they're not they weren't drinking the tap water, even if it was, you know, from.
It's true.
The nicest, most first world city in the world, they weren't drinking
it. It's true. You get there, we get our water delivered here, but yeah. Because it's not
in Canada, like it's like
me too.
I don't trust Canadian municipalities to give me good water either.
What are you drinking? Flow water? Is that what Foch is drinking?
No, we do the Canadian Springs. You know, they bring the big jugs, and that's what I do, man. It's good.
How much is water delivery in Canada, and where you're from?
It's like for a month for the family with a water cooler rental, because me and my wife, we like to like pretend we're in the office together and go have conversations by the water cooler.
I love that.
I think the rental is like $60 a month Canadian for three. I think that's 4 big jugs.
That's for the actual like machine.
And yeah, well, like it just comes with it. Like they give you one, but it's like they say it's like a rental fee, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it.
But you got to pay for the water.
You don't. Yeah, the water. That's with the water and the thing. It's like $60 a month. Yeah.
Pretty cheap.
And they drop it off, the giant jugs, like, so it's like, I don't know, that saves me having to go to the wherever to get them, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty decent. I get mine delivered too, but it's
what are you paying down there?
I pay, I'm gonna do the math here real quick on my computer, but I pay 60 pesos per jug. 60 pesos to Canadian. Okay, wow, I pay a lot less. $4 per jug, and I go like through $3. Yeah, I go through like a 20-liter jug a week, probably every 4 days. So
guy crushes water, eh?
Dude, Tulum's
getting the best of you. You're a hydro homie now.
Hydro homie.
You've never seen that subreddit?
No.
Oh, dude, it's the best Reddit in the world. Man, it's literally just people who celebrate water. Like, they just love water.
Yeah, hydro homies is a real thing.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like literally a subreddit for water appreciators. I'm gonna pull this up right now just because we gotta spend some time here.
I have you know what? Actually, I'm gonna send you. Actually, I don't want to shout these. I can explain some of the carrying costs here down, like with real numbers of a real villa if you want.
Yeah. So.
But show me if hydro homies first.
This is hilarious. Sorry, it says, yeah, I've got a porn addiction. Pouring myself another glass of water. Amazing. Best meme I've seen all day. I'm so glad I pulled this up at this moment in time.
Send me that immediately.
I'm going to. Okay, so I calculated. I kind of did some rough numbers. We got to start staying on track here, Dave. This is going to be a horrible podcast if we can't. I think it's me, to be honest. But anyway, if we, you know, I was figuring about like you're taking home about 80% of that. Let's set aside the mortgage. You're probably at about you know, like you're at like a 7% cap rate, give or take.
Exactly.
Is good. So your NOI was, I think, 28,000 over a 400,000 purchase price. You're like, you know, low 7% cap rate. So to me, you know, there's not a lot of places I could find a 7 cap in Canada. There's not a lot of places I could find a 7 cap in the US. And because I've been doing a lot of US investment advisory for Canadians.
Right.
And I've been I was originally looking at US real estate myself, but I just quite simply couldn't find it. So I couldn't find anything. And like, you know, 7 cap is a great return. So
that's good. I'll save this one for our next episode for the American or for the Mexico episode if you want. Just the actual like real numbers.
I think we're on the Mexico episode at this point. I think which is cool. Let's just do it. We'll just make this episode too.
This is why you should invest in Mexico. Let me continue.
Yeah, no, might as well. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This is a real client of mine. This is the real numbers from his year, which was a slower year in Tulum. Okay, he bought a villa. He bought it for $559, 4-bed, 4.5 bath, 59% occupancy rate, average $510 USD per night. Gross income $109,828. So he's got to pay property management. This was a fully hands-off investment for him. He just basically had a dashboard, saw who was coming and when the money was coming in. That's it. Didn't pay for cleaning, all that stuff. They take 25%. That was $27,457. Then he had his annual property taxes, which were $750. Insurance, $1,100 US annually. OTA fees, so like online travel agency fees, $3,294. HOA fees annually, $4,200. Electricity annually, $2,400. Water, $240 annually. So operating expenses, $39,000. NOI, $70,386. Decent.
Yeah, and that was for what? What's the value?
$559. Paid out. He paid it in full. He wasn't financing the property, but
nice.
Still.
And then okay, so what's the capital appreciation environment like there then? Like you see I think it did explode quite a bit, right? But it's kind of settled since then a bit.
I think we've stabilized a bit. I think again in Tulum mainly, we really saw a big boom during the pandemic because there wasn't really restrictions here. So during the pandemic, we were wide open and everybody was coming here. Studios were seeing like average 80 to 90% occupancy rates, like 150 US per night. Now it's dropped significantly and only really like the good properties are seeing great occupancy rates.
So did values come down as well? Like it kind of presented a bit of a buying opportunity in that once people were leaving Tulum, going back to everywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. That prices stabilized. I think it took a while. You know, they weren't really sure how to adapt. They were confused. And what happened was the same thing kind of in Canada, to be honest. They built all these condos for everybody that was here when the pandemic ended and everyone left. Now they have all these condos up and way less demand. So like you're kind of in that like downturn phase. Yeah. So Canada's the same way, right? Like, and this is my thing. Like, this is why I think when US investors are looking for the next opportunity, like if I really look at the lay of the land in the US real estate market, it's like there's, you've heard every, guru course, whatever. It's like flipping, subject to Section 8, like, Burr, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what's
you've
Section
heard
8?
that. Section 8's like it's like affordable housing where basically the government pays the rent for people who have like
okay.
Yeah. So that's a popular one right now, I would say, like especially like Canadians in like Ohio doing like Section 8 stuff. But all of this to say that you've heard it, and the US is like the most competitive and capitalistic market in the world. And so everyone else has heard it too, Right. And my thought, like at least what I've found is I can't beat the returns of like a good quality GP in the US. I still do some investing as an LP, a limited partner in the US. So like I'll give my money to other people who can do better than me, because in order for me to do really well in the US, I'd have to be there. I'd have to manage it. I'd have to I'd have to have the 10 years, 20 years of experience that the GPs I work with have. All of this to say, like, so I show up and I want to buy this Section 8 deal, and there's 10 other guys who are willing to pay more than me for it because they've got economies of scale or whatever, or they're just irrational. And so what I found in the US market is still like pretty much hitting all-time highs from a valuation perspective, except for like certain geographies where you're seeing like prices settle, Florida, Texas, pretty much the two bad ones, like where everybody was rushing in, kind of same thing what you're describing, and then people rushing back out.
Right.
But mortgage rates are so high. And so it's really like not super compelling time to be buying real estate in the US. And so I get a lot of Americans. We started advertising to Americans for our course in Canada. And for those of you like listening, I think we're going to end up actually making this episode 2 now. So, I'm the host of Canada's #1 real estate podcast alongside this absolute beauty named Nick Hill. And we've had more interest from Americans buying Canadian real estate than Canadians buying Canadian real estate, because smart US investors are looking beyond the US because they see that there's still a bunch of irrational US money in the US market. And what usually happens when that takes place, you can see it in multifamily and in office in the U.S. right now. Multifamily delinquencies are higher than global financial crisis. Office delinquencies are higher than global financial crisis. So eventually, that's gonna materialize in valuations coming down, and there being a good buying opportunity in the U.S. But we're still kind of just climbing, right?
Right.
Anyway, all of that to say, you mentioned that Mexico was having a bit of a downturn.
Right.
Basically every real estate market in the world, except for like maybe Dubai in the US, is having a downturn right now. So why buy the ones that are hitting all-time highs?
Right.
Why not buy the ones that just came off all-time highs and are 20-30% discount from what they were? What we know the market is willing to pay for them, 6 months ago, a year ago, right?
Right. I was going to ask you about the foreign buyer ban, because I think that's maybe what some of the American clients that are people that are watching this are going to question, because we did talk about that we're Canadian, but we do help a lot of Americans invest in Canada as well. But I know there's a foreign buyer ban in Canada, so maybe we can kind of cover the not the loopholes, but the intricacies of that foreign buyer ban, so they can understand that they are able to buy in Canada.
Yeah, so the exemption for the foreign buyer ban in Canada is basically if you're buying I'm just going to pull it up on the CMHC website here, but basically if you're buying a building that has more than 4 units, you can do that. And if you're buying a building that's outside of a census metropolitan area, you can do that. Now, a lot of people aren't really interested in buying buildings outside of census metropolitan areas because that's like super rural Canada. And I'll be honest, like if you're from the US and like rural, you think like the country and like country music and like tractor and like pickup trucks and all that stuff, which like I'm into that, right? Like I'm like I live like within an hour of like downtown Toronto, and that's like my life. But like rural Canada is not like that. I just want to like set that state. There are vast like areas. So in the US, like you can be anywhere in America and you're no further than 150 miles from a McDonald's. Apparently I think that's a real stat.
That's the thing about Canada. The Canada is super spread out, and the major cities are further apart. Maybe we can also honestly, for me too, maybe even is there like how are they defining the central metropolitan areas? Like, is it?
So it's basically like any census area. So like a census metropolitan area, like the GTA. You wouldn't like if you were going to do it in Ontario, you would have to go up to like Parry Sound or like French River, basically. Like,
so
and then
like
there's
Pickering.
like that little. No, exactly. Like that's in a CMA, right?
Okay.
But it becomes easier in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, which are like realistically, if you're an American investing in Canada and you're doing it to get better returns than like the 5-6 caps that you can get in America, you're not buying in the GTA anyway, right? You're buying in Atlantic Canada, you're buying in the prairies, right? Like you'd probably be Saskatchewan, Manitoba, I guess Quebec. Any of the Atlantic provinces probably, but you wouldn't be in like BC, Alberta, or Ontario right now. So you could get decent rural real estate in those markets and probably make a great yield. Or if you want to buy in Toronto or wherever, like you could buy a building that has a minimum of 4 units, and then it's technically commercial property, and you can do fine in that regard.
Which I know you're. Is that a missing middle type of property?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, technically, that's like the smallest end of missing middle. Yeah, I'm a big missing middle guy for sure. And a lot of actually, the U.S. is getting big into missing middle. They're like they're fired up on that stuff now too. Everybody, like I guess everywhere where the population's growing from immigration is they need fast housing, right? So
it makes sense. I mean, I guess they can't. There are no loopholes for them to buy within side of CMA areas.
They can own 10% of a corp.
Okay.
They could take the risk and do it illegally because our government doesn't have a beneficial ownership registry for corps. So if you set up an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, and just did it, the chance of them finding you probably not super high. That's not financial advice, by the way. But like I imagine a lot of foreign investors are doing that. It's also not hard to get permanent residence in Canada, so you could just become a PR, and you are seeing a bit of an increase in the CRS score, which is the way we measure the quality of new permanent residence in Canada. Seems to have jumped up a little bit.
I think a
So
lot of people would probably be looking to come, maybe some Americans, anyways, maybe looking to reside outside and maybe live and move to Canada potentially.
well, yeah, I mean, you had like I think after the Trump election, you had record number of people searching to move to Canada, and I mean, like it's funny because had the election gone the other way, people wouldn't have been searching to move to Canada because anyone on the right wing would not be interested in moving to Canada, to be fair, right? But everyone on the left wing, Canada is a very compelling place for them, right? So, yeah, so I think that could be a real thing as well. Which I haven't seen any of it yet, but yeah, like so you could get an American who would quite literally just and honestly, most of our like what we would call like foreign demand, which is like demand from people who let's maybe don't have Canadian names, right? Or like domestic Canadian names. They that comes from immigrants, right? People moving to Canada, and they and people call that foreign investment, but it's not really because they're now Canadians and their capital has been added to the Canadian money supply, not like or not unlike in the US as well. So yeah, that one's interesting, and I think capital controls are going to be a big theme, right? Like Canada, like there's a list that I just sent you of like some of the easiest places in the world to buy real estate as an American, because there are a lot of places where in Spain, as an example, Spain just put 100% increase on their land transfer tax, so you have to pay double land transfer tax if you're not from Spain.
I saw that.
So and this digital nomad thing is killing a lot of these local markets, right? Portugal saw it. Portugal is the only place in the world where housing is less affordable than Canada on a relative to income, and it's because they basically like their golden visa program and for digital nomads was like so compelling, so everybody moved there. And now a lot of these areas are seeing the consequences of that, right? Spain, Portugal, etc., and then they're starting to enact policy that limits Americans from being able to buy it. So we're going to interview people from Spain, from Portugal, etc., and talk to them about what's happened in their market, because
I agree.
if you're from the US, it's not like you just want to invest in Canada and Mexico. Yeah, they're the two closest places, but there's way cooler places on earth to invest, and we're gonna explore all of them, man.
I think like obviously Costa Rica is always talked about. I know Dubai is really talked about right now. Obviously,
Panama's a big one too.
Panama, Dominican Republic. I hear a lot of developers buying up land in Dominican Republic too. Let's make it as fun as possible so we can help people at least explore options. And what episode are we even filming right now? Are we doing 2 or 1? Or
this is episode 2, I think.
There it is.
I think it turned into, well, I don't know. No, we can probably get away with this as episode 1. So yeah, it's interesting too because there's like a lot of the islands as well. People are interested in like Cayman Islands, right? Especially because of tax offshoring and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, man. Well, let's finish up then. If we're gonna let's actually try it. We'll try and make this episode 1, and we'll so tell me what you want to do with the show. Like, what's your vision here for like, because I think I know what I want to do, but I'm curious to know, like, what's your goal for this show?
Yeah, I think I like helping Americans understand that it's not challenging. It took me a long time to do what I did. I bought property in Mexico, and I know I'm Canadian, but us and the Americans are pretty close. And it took me a long time to understand the ins and outs. It took me a long time to understand that it's not impossible. And it took me a long time to really understand that you can see better results if you just actually do the research. And I think I want us to be the outlet or inlet for people to really come to seek information so that they can make an educated decision and just get the information they need. Because it's hard to find information. And when you go to different websites, you look all over the internet, you're going to come across 50 different answers. And I see it on my TikTok, I get answer or comments all the time from people about specifically owning in Mexico and the ins and outs, and no one really knows. So it's nice to have 2 people here that can share the message of giving you actual factual information about how to leverage being an American right now and leverage your US dollar strength and take it to benefit you as an investor.
Yeah, I think my vision is very similar, man. Like, I mean, I'm Canadian, but I have a lot of interest in moving my business to the US, and I have a lot of interest in helping Americans invest in Canada, because I do think that, when Canada inevitably sees a regime change politically this year, I think that it is very likely to go through one of its most like a renaissance period, honestly, man. Like I think it'll take some time. It's going to be a couple years of pain for Canada, but I think, you know, there'll be probably one of the best bull runs in Canadian history.
I agree.
Will happen after that downturn, once that recession's behind us. And I want to give that opportunity to Americans who want to invest in Canada, because I think they're exceptionally good foreign investors to have involved in Canadian real estate when you compare to some of the, you know, like a lot of the issues that we're seeing with CSIS in Canada, which is like our equivalent to like the FBI, talking about foreign influence and money laundering and all of these like bad things like that. Those things don't tend to happen as much when it's just US investors buying in Canada. I've helped tons of foreign investors from all over the world buy in Canada, and I would love to do it with more Americans. But I also, like, genuinely, man, like, and I think both you and I are like this. Like, one of the big reasons I want to do this show is like I'm absolutely obsessed with real estate.
Yeah.
And I just want to like learn as much about, like, originally, like, it was my goal to know more about Canadian real estate than anyone in Canada. And I'm like probably pretty close.
I think you got that,
like
man.
I'm like top 5 maybe, to be honest. Yeah. I'm not saying that to like pump my tires. It's like I'm literally obsessed with this stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Right. And I honestly think like there's like very few like global real estate experts out there, man. And I really want to understand real estate and property markets. And like the podcast and all of my content has always just been me like just documenting my obsession with learning. Right. And I'm literally just going out there and asking questions and not being afraid to get yelled at in the comments and, you know, called an idiot and chirped and whatever. Cause that's just like, I actually like it. I think it's hilarious, to be honest with you.
Same.
But yeah, that's like, that's such a win. It's such a winner mentality too. It's so funny, man. Like,
I agree. I'm the same, man. Like, I think I made a TikTok about it recently, and no slight to my Canadian friends. I love my Canadian people, but everyone thinks in Canada that we're the nicest. But honestly, I love the American people. They're really, honestly, really, really friendly. And like you said, Foch, honestly, the best way for us to be better at helping people is by doing stuff like this and continuously learning, and by just being vulnerable and putting the information out there. You know, we become better ourselves and better able to help people and connect people, right, with the right individuals to you know, ask more in-depth questions. But I think we're doing something really cool here. Honestly, really excited about it. I think this is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up there, and make sure, if you're listening, please leave us a review. It'll help more people find the show. 5 stars ideally would be the review, but you know, if you give some real like feedback, then I'll accept a 4. Please share this episode with your friends. Give us a recommendation for a topic that you'd want us to cover on the show. If you're somebody listening from somewhere else, and you have experience in your real estate market and want to share that knowledge with an American audience, let us know as well, because we're always looking for experts to have on the show. And then check out the rest of our episodes. We'll have a couple coming up, one a little bit more specifically on Mexico and Canada, and then kind of the top areas that Americans are investing as well outside of the US. So I'll leave it there. Anything you want to say to sign off here, Dave?
No, I love it. Yeah, please let us know if you have any specific topics you want us to cover, taxes, whatever, implications and ins and outs of investing in certain spots. Let us know.
Yeah, tax structure is going to be a key one. We'll get to that for sure.
Yeah. Cool.